Alright, part two, guys, of my vinyl tag series of 20 questions. Number 11, a unique center label. And I chose Prince. He has a lot of cool center labels, from eyeballs to the world to his symbol. And being in Minnesota, I figured I'd do a shout out to Prince. Honestly, I got a little tired of him post his passing. All the Prince fans came out the woodwork. People hadn't listened to Prince in 20 years. They're the biggest Prince fans in the world all of a sudden. So here I am playing Prince all these years, and people kind of shrug their shoulders. The man dies, and all of a sudden everyone's like, "Oh, I love Prince, play Prince nonstop." I'll throw up in my mouth a little bit, but that's part of the price of being a DJ. I changed number 12 to the coolest album cover ever. And there's a lot of ways you could go with this. But frankly, when I saw this album cover, I'm like, oh, this needs to be in my video. It's a great Isaac Hayes. He was part of the Memphis Sound, Memphis Soul, Stax Records. There was a writer there and arranger for a long time. You probably know him as Chef from South Park. But when he does Black Moses record, first of all, he puts himself in chains, which he likes to show himself in chains quite a lot. Once again, that duality and symbolism. But this record isn't called Black Moses for nothing. It ends up folding out. And becoming that. Your CD can't do that. Your laptop can't do that. Damn near a life-size picture of Isaac Hayes that came with the Black Moses record. Of course, his records were really starting to catch on. Hot Butter Soul was a great soul record. He started making his own albums, of course. And then he pretty quickly goes into the disco stuff from the 70s. And that stuff's a little bit more, I don't want to say hit or miss, but it certainly changes the direction of Isaac Hayes. But that's a great album cover. Question 13 was supposed to be about a movie or a book. And I did think the Green Book movie was great, about touring in the South with black musicians. Tough story. But I didn't really want to get into a movie. I wanted to cover more vinyl. So I picked up my favorite vinyl of 2019. And I picked this up this year. It's a Halsey record. I play her quite a lot on my gigs. She's got a nice little attitude to her. But it's a beautiful kind of marbled red and white pressing. Kids walk by all the time and are all like, "Oh my gosh, what's that? That's so amazing." And so I figured I'd share that with you. Number 14, we went for an underrated group. And I think these guys deserve a lot more recognition than they get. The group from England called Rudimental. They're very rooted in UK garage, two-step, but they've kind of also like drum and bass, but they've also kind of added a real R&B and pop, even a sense of hip-hop at times. It's a mixed group, two brothers and two white guys. It's socially conscious, it's powerful, it's got emotion behind it. I can feel a lot of what they're singing about. They have some nice guests on here. Will Hurd does some great singing, Anne Marie does some nice singing on this. But Go Far's great, Common Emotions great, Rumor Mill's great, We the Generation, Never Let You Go, I Will for Love, Bloodstream with Ed Sheeran. It's a great record. It's got great beats and great grooves to it. Has a lot of dynamics with some of those real drum and bassy kind of crescendos. Rudimental, the first album Home was great as well. And I heard they just dropped a new one in 2019, which I haven't even got yet. But check those guys out if you have the time. Batting average. I just perceive this as to be as an artist that released kind of consistent product. And you could have done Flume, you could have done Odessa. There's a lot of bands I feel like that are in that era right now. I went with Purity Ring, in part because I have their stuff all on vinyl. I love their little duo out of Canada. I think one's in Edmonton, one's Montreal. It's kind of, again, synthy dream pop, a bit like Delana Baraz, only this is a little bit more mystical, a little bit more fairy tale-esque. You know, even the videos kind of will do that for you. Again, cool colored vinyl, kind of a green marbled thing. I'm a big fan of her voice, and I like his production. And some people thought that this album got a little more commercial than the first one, But I think this is actually a more solid record all the way through. Every song that you can play in the club, whereas this one has a few songs where you can tell he's still kind of learning to produce and how to really polish a song and make it perfect. Beauty Ring, great stuff. Check it out. Albums with different covers. Same album with different covers. I had a lot of jazz records I could have chose here. A lot of jazz artists get released over and over again as their popularity kind of ebbs and wanes. But I figured I'd pick Gene Ammons from the Prestige label because A, Prestige is notorious for doing this, and B, in the first 100 releases, they have 3 Gene Ammons records with 2 covers. This is number 7039. That's number 7039. Doesn't need to have 2 album covers, guys. This one was fine. And then a short 20 releases later, 11 releases later, 7051, Gene Ammons, All-Star Sessions, Woofing and Tweeting. It's the same record, same number, same players. Again, why do you need to change the album cover? I'm not sure why they seem to really pick on this guy's stuff more than anyone else in the early Prestige discography. This is 7060. So here we are. He has got 3 albums released within probably a year's time, and all 3 of them got alternate covers in the 60s. I'm guessing on some level it might have had something to do with his album sold well enough to the soul cats that they required reissues early in the mid-60s, and that's probably where they got those second covers. But it's confusing when you're at a record store and you pull out a record like, oh, I don't have this. And unless you know that number, 749, or unless you know every title on a record, it's hard to go, oh, this is something I already have. And so I kind of bought most of it by mistake. Realized I got home like, oh crap. And then just the fact that there's 3 of them that close together, it's kind of a weird little anomaly, I thought. Number 17. Records that were cheap then, but now they've become very expensive. And again, there's so much I bought in the 90s when people were dumping their vinyl. From Pink Floyd, that's gone from, I bought for $5, it goes for $80 now. You know, a lot of stuff like Tool and Maiden, stuff I bought real cheap, it's going for good money. Jazz stuff, you know, I paid a lot of $15, $20 for that. A lot of that's just going for $100 now. So it's really hard for me to really choose. But I decided to go with some old soul records I love. I picked 2 artists in particular that had great covers that you used to see these fairly cheap. Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions on ABC. Great cover. Again, the Impressions riding high with some Corvettes and Mustangs. People get ready, there's a train a-coming. These records used to go for $2, $3, $4, $5 in a bin. The Impressions, great stuff. Curtis Mayfield, of course, before he went solo. A lot of great soul in those early 60s Impressions records. Then I went for another guy that you wouldn't think, but you used to see Stevie Wonder records. Uptight, Down to Earth, the tribute to Uncle Ray. It's a tough one to find from like 63. The jazz soul of Little Stevie. Again, tough to come by. Stevie at the Beach. Not a record you see every day nowadays. It goes for probably $200 when you see it. Probably found that for $6 back in '96 or something. Down to Earth. And of course, Stevie Wonder's Die Cut. Where I'm Coming From. This is where he's getting towards talking book at this point. For all these early Stevie Wonder records, they used to be fairly abundant. You'd see them in places and be like, oh, look at that. And they were pressed quite frequently. You know, a lot of different eras of pressings. But those Stevie Wonder records and old Impression records, they've gotten a lot tougher to come by. And certainly have a value to them now. So rounding out my series here, we got 3 more questions. Album by drummer, favorite drummer, and I couldn't really pick a favorite drummer. You know, Philly Joe Jones, Albert Blakey. You know, it's such a wide spectrum of drummers I love, from the R&B guys. But what I ended up doing was picking a record by a drummer that you don't see much. This is Danny Richmond, a jazz cat. He played with Mingus. He played with a lot of cats in the mid-60s, late 60s, and the 70s. The great label Impulse gave him one title as a leader. And they used kind of a Campbell's soup can motif a la Andy Warhol. And it's probably one of the toughest Impulse records to come by. It's a great record, nothing special, but what's interesting about it is it's just something you don't see very often. So I chose that, not really knowing what else to pick. So Danny Richmond on Impulse. If you see it, it's actually worth $100, $200. It's in good shape because it's hard to find. A 20-year-old record that you still love. For me, this one was pretty easy. I'm a huge fan of Faithless from England. I love almost all their albums. The early couple were really trancey, but then they kind of gotten more into a pop, hip-hop, trance combination. This is Outrospective from 2000. Kind of that political protest thing on the cover there. Maxi Jazz has a new, cool British style MCing. Sister Bliss and Rolo do all the production. They're related to, oh my gosh, I'm not going to think of it right now. big British pop singer. Whose name, it's going to bug me. I'll have to put it in the liner notes. Anyway, she sings on this on a number of tracks. Love this record. Played it for years. Check out Faithless if you don't know them. Outrospective was fantastic. No Roots was a fantastic record. Pretty much dig their stuff. And then lastly, your favorite trilogy of back-to-back-to-back records by an artist. I could have taken 2 or 3 different stretches of this guy's discography. He's probably my favorite musician of all time. I think he's probably the most important musician of the 20th century because there's an honesty to his reflection, there's an integrity to what he does, and it's accessible. So there's cats out there that are super integral and super conscious, but no one's listening to it, you know, and no one's hearing it or getting it. So that kind of diminishes the value of that. Bob Marley, this guy's message is universal. I swear you can play this for black people, white people, gay people, straight people, young people, old people, it don't matter. Marley doesn't have an age to it. It's this timeless thing that always sounds great, it always sounds modern, it always sounds hip. You don't listen to Marley and go, oh, that's so 70s, or that's so 80s, or that's so... He doesn't have a decade reference to it. It's really timeless, fresh music. It has a joy to it, an optimism. And his first 3 with the Wailers, I really was leaning that way because they're very militant. But I decided to go with these 3 at the end that are just super peaceful and about kind of an economic rectification. Africa Unite, let's return to Africa. The drums of war were marching to a lot of these records in Africa as the civil wars were waging against imperialism. Kaya, Could You Be Loved? This actually has probably what I think is the greatest string of back-to-back-to-back songs on any pop record. When you end side 1 with Is This Love That I'm Feeling, Sun Is Shining, The Weather Is Sweet, and Satisfy My Soul. All 3 of those songs are stalwarts of my discography at DJing, and I can't get enough of the Kaya record. It's just so beautiful. Survival has a real political exodus, return to Africa, economic impact with songs like Zimbabwe and Africa Unite, So Much Trouble in the World. And then, of course, this is his last real record when he's alive, was Uprising and Could You Be Loved. I've ended more nights at the bar with that. You can play Pac and Biggie all night, ended with Could You Be Loved. People walk out holding hands, smiling, jumping up and down for joy. So you can't get enough of Marley. Pretty much all of his island stuff from the 70s is great. And you could have picked any 3 almost. Exodus is fantastic. Natty Dread's is excellent. The first 3, of course. Catch a Fire. It's all Rastaman Vibration. You can't go wrong with any of those records. They're just, it's Marley. And it's something that I've never grown sick of, I've never tired of, I still listen to. And if I have a kind of a dumpy day, jazz will get me out of it a lot of times, but Marley will always be my praise and worship, my place of exaltation and joy and escape from the drudgery that is life, and to recognize that living in Babylon, at least I have the fortune of living in comfort with a hot bath and food in my stomach, and there's people who've had it a lot tougher than me. And if you want to make music that has an impact, make a music that speaks to the huddled masses and tells them someday the rich are going to get theirs. Someday that big fish that's eating down the little fish is gonna get gobbled up. Someday that big tree is gonna get taken down by that small axe. That's Marley. Powerful, powerful stuff. In the abundance of water, the fool is thirsty. You can get stuff from Marley that you can live by. And you can't do that with many cats. So again, Marley's forever. I'm DJ Dan. I'm the Jazz Shepherd. Hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you soon. Peace.